Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just fully in bed, which I'm not sure if it's a power move or a powerless move, but we'll find out.
It gets you comfortable and ready for things to come, right?
Exactly. Just ease into it. Just nature's lube is the bed.
That's right. Or it gets you prepared for what has already happened, right?
Oh my God, say that.
You don't have to get into bed if you stay in bed.
Oh my God, oh my God, I've literally never thought of it that way. Go off. My brain already broken a minute in. Of
All right. Well, thank you so much for making time for me. I know that you're
course.
busy doing a lot of press and talking about your new book, Inspiration Porn. So I appreciate you making some time for me.
Of
And I
course.
know that we're on opposite sides of the country right now, but in virtual world, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we persist no matter what.
Hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot we want to talk about. I mean, your book is hilarious. It is so honest, but so, for those of us who are fans of yours, it's so quintessentially you. And then I listen to the audiobook as well, which is like sitting and getting coffee with you
Yeah.
because you're just like telling the stories directly to me, right? So I really, really love that. And I really recommend the audiobook for people, right? Because it's just your voice and it's really a story that you can tell, right? But so many questions and so many things that we'll chat about. But I mean, obviously, probably the most important question that everybody wants to know is like, why did you title it Inspiration Porn? And were there any potential other titles?
There was no other title. I feel like when I land on a title, I feel pretty definitive about it. And I kind of just know. It's very much like a light bulb moment. I think with inspiration porn, I wanted to play on this idea that like as a disabled person, I get a slow clap every time I leave bed to get like, red vines at Walgreens. And uh, the way that disabled people are kind of treated is infantilizing and the bar is low. It's so low it's in hell. And I liked the idea of taking something that initially felt hurtful and kind of reclaiming it to be this actually positive thing. Because I think when I started writing the Slut Diaries, I was thinking to myself, while getting railed by a creative director, I couldn't imagine this for myself. Like 15-year-old me would have been so happy that this would have happened. And I was like, wow, is it problematic that I'm dot 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 my own inspiration porn? Like, like I really, really like my life turned out better than I could have ever imagined it could have. And so that was sort of the connective tissue of these essays. And so yeah, the title kind of just felt perfect. And I think anytime you can put porn in your book title, I think you should.
Absolutely. And we don't have to replace it with corn.
Oh my God, imagine. Horrifying.
What's
Porn
the world
star.
coming? What's the world coming to?
Yeah, corn addict.
um, I know that a lot of your work, it is so personal, right? Because it is
Yeah.
your life. But, are do you feel like your work on inspiration porn is different than where you were when you were writing Special or any of your other books?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like it felt like a return to form because I kind of got my start writing these personal essays for Thought Catalog. Well, they weren't really essays, so much just like 500 word blog posts. And so it felt really nice as an adult that's actually experienced things rather than pretended to experience things from my job, that actually had perspective and distance from the things I had gone through to return to the form, but do it as an adult with who actually had things to say. And I really loved writing essays in particular because I felt like you could take the scenic route and really, really take your time. And I approached every essay really not knowing how any of them were going to end up. I kind of knew a subject that I wanted to talk about, an area of my life I wanted to explore, but I went into every essay really not knowing how it's going to end, what shape it would take. And that was the really, really awesome experience about writing the book was that a lot of the conclusions I came to were really in the moment. And it felt very witchy because like there were some essays where I was like, oh shit, like I don't know if I can land the plane, honey. Like she's sputtering onto the runway, like she's gonna crash. And it would always come through, like almost like it felt like divine or something. I don't know. And so so yeah, it was a really, really amazing experience. And I don't know, I kind of like it felt very comfortable for me to write in this form, I think.
Are there any points where you felt, oh, this is too petty, this is too dark, this is too
Oh,
revealing, and then you just
yeah.
included it anyway?
Um, I would say the only time I really experienced that was in my essay about Hollywood. My first draft was me purging some diamonds. Like I was really like, honey, get the bazookas out, let's roll. And I remember sending it to my team, and being like, how many bridges am I burning? Like, well, if I publish this essay. And they were like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think I was full V for Vendetta. I was capital B bitter. And they were like, yeah, it's so weird because like we don't experience you as a bitter person. We actually think you're very optimistic and joyful and blah blah blah. And like reading the essay back, they were so right. There it was and look, Hollywood gives you enough shit. You don't need to decorate. You know what I mean? So I think when I was writing that first draft, I really was kind of expunging a lot of pain and anger. And I'm kind of glad that they checked me a little bit because I think the essay is better for it. It's more like well-rounded, I would say, rather than me just like literally like, naming people who had wronged me or having like, people were catching strays in that first draft. It was needlessly spiky, I would say. But that was like the only essay I think that I really kind of rethought a little bit.
Well, we'll see if you ever work again.
I know. We'll see. I have a job now, so we'll see.
Okay, good.
It,
It's
it might
working.
be
It's working.
it might be the last job. Who knows? We'll see. That's the fun thing about working in Hollywood. It could always be the last job, and that makes this career super fun.
Excellent. It makes you verse.
Totally. Tonal. Yeah, yeah. Emotionally, you have to.
Yes. You are so excellent at writing cringe. Like it's just for so many people to go into that place to like bring that up. You effortlessly write it. Do you enjoy revisiting embarrassing moments from your life, or does your therapist just deserve producer credit?
Well, yeah, my therapist always deserves producer credit. He's been producing my life for quite some time. But it's interesting. I don't really think about that. I don't really think like I don't ever really think about like, okay, like we're gonna really like, dredge up some embarrassing things today. It's gonna be really cringe, it's gonna be really uncomfortable. I just write things as I experience them. And honestly, I don't even like necessarily qualify it with like that was really embarrassing or oh God, it's really uncomfortable for me to write this. I just as long as something's honest, it doesn't feel um I don't know. I don't really have a specific feeling about it one way or the other. If it was honest, it just needs to be written, period. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm,
and it's all part of the process. It's like everything I experienced got me to where I am today, which actually like I really love where I am today. So it doesn't I don't know. I don't have any regrets really. I mean, besides not getting fucked for 10 years, I kind of do almost regret that in a way, although we wouldn't really have the sled diaries if that didn't happen. But yeah, it's funny, like people have said a version of what you're saying. Like, wow, this is like kind of cringe, awkward, whatever. And it's so funny. I feel like I'm not quite getting it because I'm like, what do you mean? It's just my life.
well, I think that what I mean is for other people to digest it and accept
Yes.
it, it's like if this happened to me, I would die, right? But like you
Yes.
said, it is
Yes.
your life. And for you, it's just like, well, today, I had to douche or whatever, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
I talked about it. And for other people, it would be like, I would never be able to put myself on display that way. I guess in that way, this is inspiration porn, right? Because you are showing people that there is no story that's too personal for you.
Well, I think that my honesty is survival for me. I mean, it really is. Like I spent a lot of time, closeted about being gay or closeted about my disabilities. So there was always something I was withholding. And I think when I was writing personal essays in my 20s, it was my way to mitigate the damage I was doing to myself by being compulsively honest in every other area of my life. You know what I mean? To like, it was almost like a fire extinguisher, like, putting out as many fires as I could as I was able to do. So, for me, if I'm not being honest about things, I have a problem. Like I have like a visceral reaction. It's sort of like why I find it hard to work in Hollywood or just be around people who aren't honest. Like I get a bee in my bonnet. You know, basically like my big pet peeve is like when you're experiencing something and you feel like you're watching an episode of The Twilight Zone and everyone around you is acting like it's normal when you know it's not. That really, really, really triggers me. And so, yeah, I feel the need to be as truthful as possible. Otherwise, what are we doing here? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, those are good points. Your, your whole body of work really insists that disabled people deserve the same complexity and contradictions and bad decisions as anybody else, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, why do you think that audiences still struggle with allowing disabled people or characters to be just as messy, just as vain, just as selfish, horny, or chaotic?
That's a really good question. It's a question that I thought about a lot when Special was out, and people really kind of came for my character sometimes because my character was immature. He was emotionally undercooked. He behaved like a brat. And people had really, really a tough time with that in a really interesting way. It kind of reminds me of like the conversation we have around like audiences like really accepting Tony Soprano as like this complex emotional figure, even though he was like literally killing people in a meat grinder.
Yeah.
And then like Carrie Bradshaw is like vaguely annoying and narcissistic, and we're like, burn her at the stake. I think that who we give permission to be messy and complicated and nuanced and who we don't is really interesting. And I think like anything else, it's just a reflection of societal attitudes. And I think that we do not give disabled people, marginalized people in general, the room to exist as the seven-layer dip that they are.
Mm,
And I think that disabled people serve a purpose in our culture as sort of like, you know, tales of inspiration, pity, a way for people to feel safe in their own able bodies and be like, well, I'm so lucky that's not me. Um, a lot of, a lot of tales of triumph, perseverance, blah, blah, blah. And all of those, the commonality in all of that is that they aren't allowed to be messy. They aren't allowed to be spiky. They aren't allowed to be difficult. Uh, because I almost feel like I mean, maybe I'm like reading into it so much, but it's like sort of like a how dare you mentality. You can't act like that. We're already giving
yeah.
you so much grace by like allowing you to be here, and like
Hmm.
we're so amazing for that. But like you need to be X in order for, in order for it to be acceptable. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. It is frustrating, and I think that with Special, it almost made me kind of defiant, where it was sort of like if you love this character, but you only love this character when he's smiley and happy and adorable and almost like childlike, but then you don't
Hmm.
like him when he's like,
Hmm.
reprimanding his boyfriend for shitting on his dick, then then you need to kind of examine what that says about you and what you're allowing this character that you claim to love be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even, I mean, you touched on it so much about even being a sexual person, right?
Yes.
And your sexual openness, right? When, you share that in that story that the guy said, you're actually kind of good at this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's such a microaggression, I'm sure that you're so sick of hearing. And it is very much that.
Yeah, that experience was so fascinating because I kept on having sex with that person. And I think that I was just sort of hoping, naively so, that the seventh time he fucked me, he'd just understand that it wasn't that deep. It was because he was just attracted to me and he wanted to fuck me. But instead he needed to add all these caveats because he was so bewildered as to why he was there. And I just thought through sheer will in time that I could kind of, change his perspective, which is my own stuff and my own shortcomings as well. But yeah, it's kind of mystifying.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think in a lot of those experiences, those sexual experiences, that leave you feeling kind of empty or disrespected. Um, it's also a really great opportunity for you to examine your part in it, like how you're, because oftentimes it takes two to be psycho.
Hmm.
So whenever I was in those experiences, it was really important for me as a person and as a writer to acknowledge my complicity in the dynamic and like what I was getting out of it, what I wasn't getting out of it, why I was returning for more. Because I never wanted to feel like I was doing a gotcha. I never wanted to feel like I was taking somebody down because sex is so vulnerable for so many people. Everyone is sort of just, I wouldn't say they're trying their best. They're not always trying their best, but I think that, I wanted to respect them, you know what I mean, in a way. And I didn't want to humiliate anybody, you know? So the ones that were most difficult to write about were the ones that, someone was behaving in a way that wasn't super great, you know what I mean? But like, again,
Hmm.
then the onus is on me to kind of examine why I'm there at all, because I really, really do believe that like you set the tone for how people treat you. You kind of tell people implicitly like what you'll allow and what you won't allow. People are really perceptive on that and really good at picking it up. Um, I don't think this guy in particular was, but maybe he was because I kept going back. So you know what? Maybe he knew more than I did.
Something was working
Yeah, something was
deep down
working.
inside.
Yeah, maybe the dick was just so good it was worth it.
You know, there are
It wasn't.
things you just like, torture.
Yeah, totally.
Another thing, moving on a little bit in that subject, one thing that you earnestly talk about is open relationships.
Yeah.
And it is, I feel like, God, that's all we hear now, right? It's like it's always existed, but now we're hearing it so much. Do you think that queer relationships are genuinely rewriting the rules about intimacy, or are we just creating like newer, more aesthetically pleasing anxieties for ourselves?
Well, I mean, both that's the definition of both can be true, I
Yeah.
think. Like I write about this in the book, but I do think that, and we're not a monolith, but I do think in general, because gay men were not indoctrinated with these ideas of what a relationship should be. We were able to kind of create the rules from scratch and do a kind of choose your own adventure. I feel like the way that I learned about queer relationships was really through other friends who were in long-term relationships and kind of being like, well, how do they do it? Like, you know what I mean? And so that I think frees us in a lot of ways. Yeah, I feel like I'm paraphrasing a part in the book, but I think that it's so funny the journey you go on because when you're gay, you're sort of erased from society, and that societal erasure really stings. But then I think when you grow up, you're kind of like, oh my God, I'm looking around at all these miserable straight people who have experienced such cultural indoctrination and now are in these like little prisons that they've built for themselves. Meanwhile, gay guys have been like making it up as we go along, and that's allowed us to really have this sort of freedom and kind of like disentangling that I think heterosexuals haven't. So, but I mean, obviously, like anyone else, gay guys are crazy, and like, and how we do our relationships is not necessarily perfect, nor is it a copy and paste job. So there's always going to be conflict. But I think what I love about it is there is this sort of inherent freedom, and I don't feel pressured to like live a certain kind of way.
Mhm. And at any point, you could decide, I'd like to be open or I'd like to be monogamous, right? And whatever
Yeah,
works, or whatever iteration or variation that exists, there is no rule. And
yeah.
I think secretly people who aren't in open relationships are slightly, a little bit jealous that perhaps they can't
Well,
explore it for themselves
it's
or
so
to
funny.
be
I used
free
to have
enough.
that. I know I used to have that too. I used to be kind of Judge Judy about people who were in open relationships because I felt like they were holding themselves back in some kind of way. But honestly, some of the people I've met that are in closed relationships, I'm like, yeah, this is like who you are. This is like true to who you are. I can't really explain it other than like certain people you're like, yeah, this is authentic to who you are. I don't think that you're necessarily sacrificing a bunch. I don't think that your needs mirror mine or anything like that. I think that you're genuinely happy in this dynamic. But I remember at first being like, wow, they must really not give themselves permission to really live the way they want to live. You know what I mean? Which is also just so like LOL and sanctimonious. You know what I mean?
You just have to give them one of those. I love that for you.
Totally. That's amazing. It's not how I
It's
it's not how I do things, but it's amazing that you're monogamous. That's so incredible. I could
yeah.
literally never, but like love that for you.
So your pop culture references are so specific that reading your work sometimes feels like you're trapped in like the world's funniest group chat where we have like a lot. I mean, specifically because I think we're in a very similar age bracket, but our
Yes.
references are very, I get them, right? What would you say is the piece of media that you think most accidentally shaped your worldview?
Oh, super interesting. Well, I would say the one, the first thing that ever comes to mind is this show called Popular, which was Ryan Murphy's first show on WB. And I was 12 years old when it came out, closeted. Didn't really know I was gay. It was kind of like I was circling puberty, and so I was getting an idea, but I wasn't quite sure. And these two characters, Nicole Julian and Mary Cherry, were these two popular bitches who, I now have the language to be like they were basically gay men. They were like queer coded beyond belief. They were basically like drag queens, you know what I mean? Like dressed up in like cis female high school clothing. And that show just had a very, very distinct faggot sensibility. It was like John Waters energy. And I think watching that, I remember I used to read recaps of TV shows on this website called Television Without Pity, which is sort of like the OG TV recap website. And there was an episode about one of the characters like, having like football tryouts. And the recapper was sort of like, why are we watching this character like try out for football? Don't they know the only people watching this are women and gay men? And I was like, and me. And then I was like, oh wait.
Nice.
Like, I'm not kidding you. It was like a defining moment of me at my desktop computer being like, wait, am I one of those gay men? Like, it like truly broke my brain. And I think like just understanding the queer sensibility, very Susan Sontag notes on camp. Like, I was like, oh, this is the kind of humor that I love. And it is very distinctly faggot. And I think it really helped shape my voice.
And then you went into the AIM chat room.
Exactly. And I was just a boy looking for looking for a connection. And it wasn't creepy at all.
And does some of that humor, I mean, some of that humor now, I mean, you carry that and it comes out in the work that you do, right?
Beyond, yes. I think there's always like, my urge to like you have to hog tie my wrists to refrain from me like writing like a bitchy popular girl. Like I'm just like that is like kind of where I spiritually live.
I really love your history with LiveJournal
Oh
because
wow.
I also grew up sharing and also oversharing my life online. And now
Wow.
it's almost difficult for me to not overshare. I think that's just how we grew up, right? And
Yeah.
seeing it everywhere. What do you think today's generation version of LiveJournal is? Or are people today wanting more like anonymity?
I think the whole internet is LiveJournal. I think LiveJournal was a precursor to everything we're experiencing now. Writing that essay was so illuminating for me because I remember being like 16 years old and writing these entries about my life that were so curated, so cherry picked, and it was like about cultivating an image, a virtual image that was kind of different from my IRL life. And then I remember being really good at it and having like truly Marlon Randos from like Tennessee following my live journal. Because that was what happened on live journal. Like some people had really popular journals and they would become like live journal famous, quote unquote. And it was revolutionary in 2002. Like that ecosystem was sort of just like a brave new world. There was no point of reference for any of it. And when I was writing about LiveJournal in this book, it really there was like a thousand light bulb moments because I was like, wait, this is literally just the world. Like like random people on Instagram follow me. I am curating my life for a bunch of strangers. And LiveJournal was to me kind of what planted the seeds for what was to come. And then to your point about people wanting anonymity, I say this in the book, and I really do mean it, where it's like I think that we live in a time where we've never had more access to people's lives and known less about them. And I think there that is sort of this act of sort of defiance of the expectation of needing to share your world. But really, like what it's come down to is that people have just become remarkably savvy at commodifying their identities and really picking and choosing what they choose to share and what they don't. And
Hmm.
so I think that the versions of lives that we're seeing being broadcast online are actually markedly different from their real lives, which I think creates a really weird cognitive dissonance. And it's sort of depressing. It just doesn't feel honest. And I think like what I loved about this book was sort of just being actually honest and not really curating and not, you know what I mean, and not wondering if my loser life looks okay online.
It's like when you post this amazing photo of a coffee shop and you don't tag it, then everybody short circuits, right? Because they don't know where the hell you are. They want to go there, they want to be there, but you didn't
Yeah.
do them that service.
Well, it's just like I feel like Instagram is now just like your virtual shop of your life. Like, you know what I mean? It's like buy this, go here, da 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 da. Like you're not really getting insights into like anyone's real life or personal feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's hard to be a millennial. I mean, I'm a millennial myself, right?
Yeah.
You're very much a millennial.
I'm a
I
capital M
self,
millennial.
you,
Yeah.
yeah. One of the things that resonate with the book is how quintessentially millennial it is and your voice. It's whether it's the internet brain or the self-awareness, the oversharing, as I mentioned, the irony poisoning, right? Do you think that our generation uses a similar type of humor as our version of like emotional intelligence, or are we emotionally avoidant in that way?
It's funny because I almost feel like Gen Z, what I know of Gen Z, because I'm not necessarily at the front lines, is worse. I think that millennials are really interesting because we are the only generation to really have a distinct before and after. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm 39 years old. So my childhood was pretty like I might as well have been on the Oregon Trail. Like there was no like it was like given like back like getting lost in the Branca, like like hanging out with my friends and like my mom like ringing the bell to come home at dinner time. Like it was very very like the internet was not a main character, and I remember very distinctly like my father getting America Online when I was like 9 years old and hearing that modem like do 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 do, and the internet was sort of this like new frontier, but it still wasn't a main character in our lives. It was like a texture to our lives. And then I remember like in high school, getting MySpace, that was revolutionary. Getting Friendster, that was revolutionary. LiveJournal.
Mhm.
But still, people's lives were still way more IRL than URL, right? Then you have Facebook, which was like happened right when I went to college. So I feel like we've been on the front lines of every new social media invention. But I would say, I mean, I remember in college going home to LA for a month, like for my breaks, and not bringing my computer because I was like, oh, like I'm not writing papers, so I don't need my computer. So like I just wouldn't really go online for a month. Or if I did, it was like check my email or whatever. Like there wasn't really anything to do on the internet. So like, and I didn't have a smartphone until 2013. I was like a holdout. So my life was still very, very much kind of like more lived off my phone than on my phone. But I think Gen Z, what's really dark about that is that they've never known a different life. This is all they've known. And I feel a lot of sadness for that because I think it is really, really, it was very, very special to, I mean, I think that like the way the internet was like in the early, like in 2008, 2009 was like kind of this perfect mix of like, yes, it was around, it was cool, people went online, whatever. But again, like your actual life that was lived offline was still more important. Now it's like, now I just think everyone's become their digital avatars in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But I think Gen Z, because they've never known something different, I think that it's all like winky face emojis, irony, hee hee ha ha ha, nothing matters. The world's literally gonna end in 3 years. We're gonna have like being eaten by machines. So like literally like Dance to the World Ends by Britney. And I think that there's a nihilism, I think, that has been rightfully bred into this generation because there's sort of this feeling of what's the point? Um, And so I don't know. I think millennials, like, yes, we definitely like microdose irony and like hee hee ha ha ha, but I think Gen Z is like fully mainlining it.
They will never know MapQuest and having
I
to
know.
print
I know.
a map
Forget it.
to
I
get to
know.
your
I
destination.
know. I know. It's our version of writing by quill.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for today.
Yeah, of course.
Beyond, promoting your book, what else are you working on that you can share?
I just finished actually a new novel that I'm doing edits on right now and gonna take to the market hopefully next month. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be doing a play next summer in New York. Um I'm also writing for a new show, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it yet. So
Okay.
I'm keeping busy.
All right. Well, I'm sure you are, and we look forward to being able to hear what those projects are.
Good. Me too.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time in New York.
Thank
And
you.
all right, good luck with everything.
All right, bye.
Take care. Bye.